There's a great relationship between dominant chords and half-diminished chords. The dominant chord is root 3, 5, flat 7. The half-diminished chord is root flat 3rd, flat 5, flat 7. That might not really mean anything by itself, but they're really interrelated. Well, an E dominant ninth chord, let's say, very interrelated to a half-diminished chord. If you're playing any kind of dominant chord, you're gonna a lot of times come in contact with half-diminished chords. That's why, for instance, if you have like a slow blues, I don't know. But you're using half-diminished chords in place of the one chord, which would be a dominant seventh chord. So that just happened to be a C-sharp half-diminished chord in place of an A7 chord. Well, how could that be? Take a look at the notes in A7. What do you have? You have a A, C-sharp, E, G. So 1, 3, 5, flat 7, 5, 3, 1. What's a half-diminished chord from the third degree? So if you dominant from the, you're having a dominant seventh chord from the root, some good old kind of shape like that. So it'd be C sharp. So you have C sharp, E, G, B. Well, C sharp, E, and G are 3 of the 4 notes in an A7 chord. Just having a B on top to make this flat 7th of the C sharp half diminished chord. Well, the B in relation to an A is the 9th, the 2nd. So you're going to see chords like that for, like, in a blues or so. You might have like an A9 chord. But the A9 chord will be voiced as like a C sharp half diminished chord because they interrelate. If you're playing an A7 chord, you have the A in there, potentially. You could always drop that. Like as soon as you drop the root of an A7 chord, you basically have a C sharp half diminished chord, except minus the B in it, which would be the 9th of the A9 chord. Everybody with me? Say you were playing along an E7 chord. Well, let's use diminished chords from the third degree, which would be like a G sharp half diminished 7th, right? Over E7. Well, what was that? That was all just a bunch of E7 type stuff or E9 type ideas. Or was it? We're just playing a bunch of half diminished ideas. A little extension, half diminished chord there with the C sharp over the G sharp, half diminished 7th be the 11th. What's that? Another G sharp half diminished chord, B, F, G sharp, D. Well, those are all like versions of an E7 chord or an E9. What's B, F sharp, G sharp, and D for a G sharp half diminished 7th chord? What's that in relation to an E7? Very interrelated. What's if it was G sharp half diminished 7th, that's the B is the flat 3rd, F sharp is the flat 7, G sharp's the root, D is the flat 5. Okay, cool. What's it in relation to a E7 or an E9 chord? It's the B is the 5th, F sharp is the 9th, G sharp's the 3rd, D is the flat 7. You'll notice that we don't have an E in this chord, but it's still an E9 chord. The roots are always a great note to drop in place of more colorful tones. All if you want to. So dominant 7th chords relate and are interchangeable with half diminished chords a third up. You might come across a lot of 2-5-1 progressions. 2-5-1 in any key, the 2nd chord would be a minor chord or some derivation of it. The 5 chord would be a dominant chord, but it could also be a half diminished chord. They're interchangeable. Say we're in C, you have a 2-5-1, say it's like a D minor 7 to a G7 to a C major 7, let's say. And we'll just do it in really common shapes. So there's D minor 7, G7 to C major 7. You don't have to play a G7. You could play a half diminished B chord from the 3rd, which would be a B half diminished 7th. And you're really playing a B half diminished 7th, but you're playing a G7 too. At some point, it's all a big wheel, and you can call it whatever you want, but the tones really interrelate. So let's take the same thing, instead of going from D minor 7 to G7 to C major 7, we'll go D minor 7, and let's just do this version of B half diminished 7th to C major 7. So initially, D minor 7, G7 to C. We'll do it again. D minor 7, B half diminished 7th to C major 7. They all interrelate.